In this video, we're going to be ranking the albums by the Foo Fighters. I did this ranking about 2 years ago after they released Medicine at Midnight, but since they just released a new album, but here we are. I'm going to update it. So with that being said, I'm just reviewing the studio albums. I have 11 of them, so let's get started. Coming in at number 11 is Sonic Highways from 2014, released on November 10th of that year through Roswell and RCA Records, produced by the band and Butch Vig. So Dave Grohl traveled to 8 cities across the U.S., conducting interviews with musicians and recording engineers and producers and a bunch of other people. And he wrote the songs based on each city he went to, and each track features contributions from musicians that have ties to that city in general. So they also did like a TV series on this on HBO, which I never saw. I don't think it's on HBO Max, but if it is, I'd like to check it out. But anyway, this one is kind of feels like a compilation. It's not great. There's some good things. Something from Nothing is not bad. It kind of has that like Holy Diver type of riff. My favorite is Subterranean. This is just an atmospheric ballad with orchestration, and it reminds me of like Radiohead with some alternative and indie rock influences. So not a bad album, it just comes at the bottom. At number 10 is Concrete and Gold, their 9th album, released on September 15th, 2017 through Roswell and RCA Records. First album produced with Greg Kurstin, and described by the band as an album where hard rock extremes and pop sensibilities collide. So it's kind of like mixed up. You have like a lot of like that classic rock, like Beatles, Queen influence, and then you also have like some like heavier sounds. For example, the song Run mixes elements of classic rock with heavier parts like death metal. The Sky's the Neighborhood, that one I like it, but it has like Dave Grohl giving like this really like loud and energetic vocals, but with like more like instrumentation, like a laid back sound. I like Arrows, that's more of like straightforward Foo Fighters. And I like Sunday Rain. This one has this late 60s Beatles and psychedelic rock sound. So overall, it's okay, not bad, but it just comes in at number 10. At number 9, I have In Your Honor, the 5th studio album, released on June 14th, 2005 through Roswell and RCA. So it's a double album. The first disc I liked a lot. It's just more of the heavy rock songs. And the second is more of like an unplugged type of album, which I think it brings it down a little bit. I think that's why I have it ranked a little lower here. And then on that second like half of the album, they have guests like John Paul Jones, Nora Jones, and Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. And I probably pronounced it wrong. I know like people always are on my case about pronouncing that guy's name wrong, but this one, I like the front half a lot. In Your Honor, No Way Back, Best of You, DOA, great songs. I really love them. I like the whole like first part of the album. It's just like a lot of like mixture of like classic rock and like Foo Fighters. But the second side, it has the song What If I Do, one of my favorites. That's like one of my favorite acoustic tracks of all time from this band. But after that, it kind of like feels like a Dave Grohl unplugged solo album. It just, I never got into that second half, so that's why I have it ranked a little lower here. But it's at number 9, so it's not too low. At number 8, I have Medicine at Midnight. This is their 10th studio album, released through RCA and Roswell on February 5th, 2021, produced by Greg Kurstin and the band. I reviewed this one on my channel when it came out 2 years ago. I enjoyed it when it came out. I think I have it ranked a little lower than I originally did, but I still go back to it. It's kind of like a mixture of like dance rock and like David Bowie, that type of sound. This is also the last album with Taylor Hawkins before he died. But we have Making a Fire, that's like an upbeat dance rock song with the female backing singers. Shame, Shame, the first single, was kind of like a shoegazy type of song. Waiting on a War is probably one of my favorites. It's like straightforward acoustic rock. And then No Son of Mine, probably like the hardest rocker, as like a tribute to Lemmy from Motorhead. Chasing Birds, like a jazzy and lounge music type of ballad, but I really like that one. It has some good lyrics. This is a short album. It's like 36 minutes, but I like it a lot. It's not one of their best, but I think it's just like, it's a happy album. Like the album after this is going to be like a lot sadder. At number 7, I have There's Nothing Left to Lose, the third studio album released on November 2nd, 1999, through Roswell and RCA Records. First album with Taylor Hawkins. And this one has some good songs, but they're kind of like got like a little softer at times. But I think it's still pretty good. Well, not all the songs. Actually, like the first song, Stacked Actors, is like one of their heaviest songs. It has that like thick bass line. And then Breakout is just like typical Foo Fighters with the grunge components. And Learn to Fly, that was the radio song. Give Me Stitches, that's like a really cool like alternative rock song. That one's a lot. Then Aurora, that's about a street in Seattle. This one's like a love song that Dave dedicated to his grandmother. After that, like tracks like 7 through 11 are where the album like goes down a little bit. Living Skin kind of sounds a little bit like Deftones, and Next Year is more like straightforward rock. And final song, MIA, it's kind of a catchy song, has more of that classic sound. So this one is pretty good. I think everything after this is going to be like really good albums. At number 6, I have Echo Silence, Patience and Grace, the 6th album released on September 25th, 2007 through Roswell and RCA Records. This one is a mixture of like regular rock and like acoustic tracks. Second time the band worked with Gil Norton, and Dave Grohl wrote these like reflective lyrics about he was inspired because of like the birth of his daughter. This one has one of the most popular songs, The Pretender. This one, that's a really great song. Then there's Let It Die. I think like the first like 5 songs is great. Erase, Replace, that's a cool grungy song. Long Road to Ruin, that's just classic Foo Fighters. And then Come Alive as a laid-back ballad, but I really like the guitar riffs and I like the vocals in that one. After that, like most Foo Fighters albums, like after like track like 6 to the end, they kind of like drop down a little bit. So we have Stranger Things Have Happened. That's like a laid-back song. Ballad of the Beaconsfield Miners, like an instrumental kind of bluegrass, Led Zeppelin 3 type of track, and Statues, probably one of my favorite Foo Fighters songs. That's like a really underrated song. That one I like a lot. But otherwise, really good album. And at number 6. At number 5, I have One by One, the 4th album, released on October 22nd, 2002, through Roswell and RCA. This one, when I see rankings, I always see this one like ranked like very low or at the bottom. I don't know why. I like it a lot. I think they had some problems, with the production. There was like a lot of tensions in the band. But and then they had to I think redo it from scratch at like one point. But I don't know. I like it a lot because like the first 5 songs are just like some of the best Foo Fighters songs ever. We have All My Life. We have Low. That's just like a fast and heavy song. Have It All. That's like a grungy song. Times Like These. That's like one of the classic songs, one of the most popular ones. Then Disenchanted Lullaby. That one's really underrated. Kind of has like this gloomy Alice in Chains type of feel. And then Tired of You. It's like slow and dark. I like that one a lot. And everything else up to the last song, Come Back, like one of the heavier songs. It's a heavy, hard rocking, like kind of like new metal, almost like a grunge type of album, but I think it's really good. So that's why I have it right. Before I have the new album, But Here We Are, their 11th album, released on June 2nd, 2023, produced by Greg Kurstin and the band itself. First studio album after the death of Taylor Hawkins. It's a very emotional album. And Dave Grohl did the drums on this, but then they announced Josh Freese as the replacement of Hawkins. Just lots of great songs. We got Rescued, that's the first single. Under You, it's more like a radio-friendly song. Hearing Voices, that's very emotional and powerful. But Here We Are, that has that more of that classic Foo Fighter sound. The Glass, a really laid-back and emotional ballad. It was classic rock in the 90s. Alternative feel. Then there's The Teacher. This is like a 10-minute song. One of the best songs that they've ever done. It just has everything you want, like from the grunge. It has the emotion. And that last song called Rest is very sad. It's acoustic. It just closes out the album perfectly. So this is a very sad album. I'm thinking like their next album is going to be like a little more upbeat. But I think this is the album that they needed to make. And I think it's a really good one. And I have it ranked at number 4. So at number 3, I have The Color and the Shape, released on May 20th, 1997. Second album through Roswell and Capitol Records, and kind of like the official debut of the Foo Fighters, because this is when, Dave Grohl wrote and recorded as a band. So on this album, he has Pat Smear on guitar, Nate Mendel on bass, William Goldsmith on drums, and this is where they kind of like develop their sound, like without being just like a continuation of Nirvana. But lots of good songs. We got Monkey Wrench, that's like shows off the heavier side. My Hero, more of a radio rock friendly song, and Everlong, that's just a classic song, of which I actually like the acoustic version better. There's a ballad called Walking After You. That's one of my favorite Foo Fighters ballads of all time. Then there's My Poor Brain, an alternative rock song. So there's like a lot going on this album. It's a heavy album. Always like a lot of people consider it like one of the best. Some people wouldn't even rank it at number 1. I have it at number 3. It's very good, and that's all. Let's get to number 2. At number 2, I have the Subtitle Foo Fighters, released on July 4th, 1995. So this one's very interesting. I have a couple things to say about it. So I guess you can compare it to the new album, but here we are because it's an album created out of grief after like losing Kurt Cobain. The second thing that makes this album unique, it's kind of like a Dave Grohl solo album because the band didn't really exist back then. It's just that something that Dave Grohl kind of like, he wrote and recorded it. He worked with a producer, and he just like handed out cassettes to his friends, but then it got noticed and it became something. And I think this is a type of album that like could have been the next Nirvana album had Kurt Cobain not killed himself. I think it's just very good. It feels like a grunge album. It was released in the mid-90s. Grunge was starting to like fade away at that time. But lots of great songs. This is a call. I'll stick around. Big Me, Alone and Easy Target. Those are the first 4. Really just great. And everything else is just really good. For example, I like For All the Cows. It's just a cool acoustic track. And this was a really good album. This is like the start. And for that reason, I have it at number 2. Because it's just like a really good album, start to finish. At number 1, I have Wasting Light, their 7th album, released on April 12th, 2011 through Roswell and RCA. So they recorded this in Dave Grohl's garage in Encino, California, and they used only analog equipment then. They were produced by the band and Butch Vig, and they had lots of guest musicians like Bob Mould from the Pixies and Chris Novoselic from Nirvana, and Pat Smear is actually an official member. I think he left for a while and he came back. So this is like his first album since The Color and the Shape, but solid album just start to finish. So we have Bridge Burning, heavier song with some like Nirvana-like grunge influence. Rope, this one's pretty cool. Kind of like a funky vibe, but I like the delay effects on the guitar. Dear Rosemary, this is like kind of like alternative rock. This one has Bob Mould on it. White Limo, one of the grungier songs with like the distorted vocals. Alexandria, the palm muted guitars and the groovy rhythms. These Days, just classic Foo Fighters, back and forth, this cool hard rock, chugging guitars, and the big chorus. And final song, Walk, it's just like a really great song with uplifting lyrics. So this is like their like perfect album. I love to listen to this one start to finish. It's not a song that like I'll pick out songs that I have my favorites. I think I just like every song like almost equally, and that's why I have it at number 1. So let's close this out. Thanks for watching. You know what I always say: like, subscribe. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you all. If you're interested in my original Foo Fighters ranking, I'll put it right here. I did it 2 years ago. It's a little different, but it might be interesting because some of the albums may have changed places. So that is all. I will see you in the next one.